Welcome back, Panther fans, for a very special episode of State of Atlanta. We got Ryan and Tim, as always, and as well, Ben Moore of Panther Talk and Brady Weiler of Thursday Night Podcast to talk about what the hell happened the past couple of months at Georgia State football, what we got going on with basketball and everything else going on. Welcome, guys. And Ryan, Tim, this is when we do the beer.
Yeah, time.
All right. Well, Ben and Brady, if you've got something to drink too, don't let us stop you.
I got a water, no sound really, just kind of.
Yeah.
Bucky's cup.
Well, yours is more. You're gonna drink it, and you're gonna go.
Just
like
like
you're
a
actually
Sprite?
refreshed.
It's like from like a spray commercial, right?
Oh, I don't know. It's like what happens when I drink water. I'm like refreshed, But when I
enough.
drink beer, I'm not really refreshed. I'm just like, oh, this is yummy, and I want more.
I had one beer at lunch today, and I was driving home, and
Okay.
once I start drinking, my body just continues to drink whatever. And so I was driving home, and I noticed myself reach down to the cup holder to grab something. There was no drink there. There was no Diet Coke. There was no beer. There was no anything. There would not be a beer in my car. But like that was my thing. Is like I'm just ready to keep this party going.
Yeah, one beer on your birthday. Are you just like legally required to say that because this is going out into the public? Is that what's going on?
No,
It's your birthday today, David? You just turned 21. Is your first beer? Is it your birthday today?
Yeah, it is my birthday. I only had one beer
Happy
at lunch.
birthday, buddy. I'm sorry.
The present
wasn't on
apparently he
social
wanted
media.
was existential talk about Georgia State athletics. So we're
Hell,
providing
that-
that.
This
No.
is what
Well, so
everyone
funny
wants
thing-
on their birthday.
Brady, you say that.
we got
Funny
enough
thing
time to
is-
talk about that. We got the whole off season, boys. Come on. Happy
Brady,
birthday.
the funny thing about that is Ryan said, "Oh, what are you doing tonight? Any special plans? Hanging out with like your best buds tonight? Talking about Georgia State?" I was like, "Yeah, that's why I invited Ben and Brady on."
Absolutely.
Ooh,
We're here to celebrate.
Nice. Like it. Good job, David.
All right, let's get into it. I
Do we have to?
went into this season.
Just realized I'm
I wanna
wearing
say
like navy
cautiously
on the
optimistic.
outside.
I want to say I went in cautiously optimistic, but I think that that's a stretch. I really went in feeling pretty good about this program and this team. We knew it was a tough schedule at the beginning with the out of conference schedule with Ole Miss and Memphis and Vandy, who somehow got good after we beat them last year. And it wasn't. I saw 6 wins on the schedule. I thought
David,
6
you
wins.
saw 9
saw
wins. I have you
9.
on the record.
Yeah. So my prediction was 9. But what I'm saying is I saw 6. Like we say that bowl eligibility is the bare minimum. That's the floor of what this program should be every single season. So I saw the 6. I saw more, but I saw the 6. We couldn't muster anything but beating the FCS team who won one other game or one game themselves all season. That wasn't even that convincing of a win.
No,
Ben or
they were
Brady,
never
I'll let
gonna
either one
They
of
were
you
not,
guys
yeah.
start it off. What the hell happened from a bird's eye view in this season?
I'll jump in real quick, and I think this is and I responded to text message. So shout out to the folks that have my cell phone number and text me about all things. But I think there's one thing per each side of the ball. I think the defense was broken by injuries. I think a lot, and really all 3 levels. I think there were key guys and key backups that would have played a lot. Almost every single game, you lost guys, and several for the season. And I think when you start there and you shove guys into plays, like to your point, playing Memphis so early, playing at Vandy, and then losing a guy, and then having to shove so many guys in to play so early. And that was my concern walking into the season. I think we even talked about it before the season, is a lot of these guys were talented, but had not played at other schools, which is a symptom of the portal era, by the way. So guys that drop down or guys that transfer in, that's going to be part of it. Is their guys want to play, right? So they're going to come in and want an opportunity to play here because they didn't play at their previous stop, and they may not be very experienced. Well, if you shove a lot of those guys in, and some of those guys that you're counting on get hurt, then what? Well, you're playing freshmen, right? Which happened a lot this season, which in hopes would pay dividends. On the offensive side of the ball, the offensive line, again, was a problem. We were worried about in August, and nothing starts. I had an old offensive line coach tell me in the very, very start of this program, everything starts up front. You can have the best play call. You can have best receivers. You can have the best quarterback. If your offensive line does not hold up and block in pass pro or running game, you're dead. And I think the running back room was really good. I think the quarterback had opportunities to make plays and just couldn't because the offensive line was ineffective. not good, and you also had poor quarterback play. But those two areas on the offense and defense, respectively, I think are a lot of the symptoms for 1-11.
And I would go ahead and just add in there that we didn't have necessarily poor quarterback play all around. We had some pretty good quarterback play, and we had coaches who wouldn't play the player who was playing well. I said play too many times there, and I started feeling a little weird about it. But it's just crazy. It's just crazy that like Cam Brown didn't get played more often earlier. I know he went down for an injury, late in the season, and so it's hard to say anything about the coaches there. But early on in the season, the coaches were making a decision to not play this guy who was out there every time he was on the field. He was scoring touchdowns and not throwing picks, which is really super key compared to the other quarterbacks, throwing touchdowns and not picks.
I mean, so for me, it goes to with that point, and just with a lot of it, not feeling like there was a cohesive plan that they stuck to. Because if you remember back to last offseason, they bring in Cameron Brown, they bring in PJ Hatter, and a lot of it's about we're going to bring in a mobile quarterback, and that's going to be the new focus of the offense. And then they add TJ Finley very late on. And so removing like the whole thing with the dueling quarterbacks, at that point, they already kind of made a switch back to like, we're going to try with a different quarterback, and they'd spend the whole offseason planning a certain way on offense. We're 2 years in, and as Ben was talking about, doesn't seem like there's much of they haven't had success with building that offensive line, building that type of run game, which you kind of felt was going to be part of the plan with what Del McGee was brought in as the running backs coach, all that, and was talking a lot about that type of stuff. And there's been a lot of stuff where it's like the rhetoric from the opening press conference is really not matched reality in how that they've made those decisions. That's ultimately just how you're going about the day-to-day of this program. And so I think I'm still waiting to see the cohesive identity of what he wants the offense to be, what he wants the defense to be. And so, yes, there's personnel stuff, but honestly, by the end of the year, it got a little bit old hearing the same thing about, there's injuries, because everyone's got injuries. Everyone finds a way to deal with it. And I don't think that there's that many positions where I think it just got so hammered that the depth was an issue. Because, again, Kedrick Walker didn't really play much until the end of the year, and he ended up being a pretty solid linebacker. And so I wonder what would happen if he plays a little bit earlier, not because of an injury situation, just if he's maybe a guy that should have gotten reps earlier. And so I'm not in practice. I'm not in the meeting rooms. I am not declaring from 12 games that I watched from a very far distance away that I know who should have been playing when, but there's enough that's been out there with the product of the field. You're going 4-20 that it would be unfair to not question it as far as trying to make the program better and looking at it objectively and saying, clearly something was amiss here. And I think it just speaks to whether it's not having the vision or not knowing how to implement the vision. That's been missing from the top down.
So, I mean, what I'm hearing though, like we're kind of a unicorn, sort of. It's injury and then inexperience. It's kind of did us in this season, and we were just never getting out of the starting gates. Whereas I think there are other schools out in college football that somehow aren't these unicorns. Why? I'm curious. Why do you guys think we are a unicorn? What is it about Georgia State?
I should also add that, like, in 2018, Sean Elliott's second year, team went 2-10, played a lot of freshmen. There were some injuries there too that forced some guys into action. Sean Elliott won 7 games the first year, so he had a lot more latitude. And then in 2019, that team would have probably been the best team in program history, but for Darlington's injury at the end of the season. So I think it's also that, like, year 2 is the expectations where you really want to see it flip. And if you didn't have a year 1 success, then you're already starting behind the 8 ball. And so I don't know. I feel like maybe the way that year 1 went made them change what they wanted to do in year 2. And sometimes you can overcorrect. As for what you're asking about, it's hard to compare situations, except just to say that I think Jerry Mack came in with a plan on offense at Kennesaw State, and Bob Chesney had been a winner at multiple schools before. And before you even get into resources at James Madison versus Georgia State, like, he won at Holy Cross, he won at Assumption, he won at Salve Regina, and now he's going to UCLA.
And
I bet he's probably going to win there. Yeah, like,
well, and somehow or another, we almost stopped them. We're like
we
2
almost
plays
ruined
away
their
from
plan.
stopping from. Yeah.
if Cam Brown plays in that game, I believe Georgia State wins.
Yeah. No,
so
exactly.
for all the barbs of the defense, I think they actually played just a really good game that day. Like, it was a mirage for the rest of the season, but like some of it was JMU being kind of in between themselves on offense, but like the defense kept the big plays from hitting them over the top. They kept the run game in check for most of the game, and then it was kind of like a war of attrition. But if you watch that game, you would not think that's a defense that gave up 38 points a game this season. But then you watch the Vandy games and the Ole Miss games, and you even watch some of the conference games like App State, and it's like, did this team give up 50 a game?
Right.
our defense all year round, like we were kind of confused because they were terrible like overall, and if you go look at the stats, you really, I mean, the story is not good, but you saw these like gleams of like really good plays that were happening, and the potential is there, but it just never came out. In fact, it felt like it regressed like as the season went along, and like just I don't know, just the defense was not good. And then I mean like you look at, you expect to lose against like an Ole Miss and a Vandy and stuff, but Vandy scored more points than anybody else against our program, and it's like,
Well, they had.
it is still
Nobody else has
Vandy.
ever scored
They wanted
70
some
on your
payback.
back.
They wanted some payback.
I know, but it's still Vandy.
Payback.
Like no matter
But
how
it
good they
wasn't
are,
fit-
they're still Vandy.
But also understand it was intentional.
Yeah.
Part of it is-
and no qualms there. I think if I was a player on that team, shoot, you just go all the way. You don't.
It was one of
hey,
their
you
most
want to substitute me
embarrassing
in? No. Play the best player. Like you just go get them. Step on that neck.
The only counter I would give to that, though, is there is a field goal blocked, an extra point blocked, and a punt blocked in that game. There were a ton of Georgia State-specific things that went
Miscues.
badly wrong. And I will say, I'm not, punting on this, this tenure. Year 3 is obviously going to be mega important, and it turns into, like, you can't, not only can you not have a losing season, but you got to find a way to change the narrative. If this does not turn around ever, I will look back as that game as the first time I really said, this is just not going to happen. Because it felt so below the bar, and obviously you want to compete with teams like Tennessee and win those games, and that's happened in the history, but it's like, that was like not even the same sport. And it's like, I know there was the revenge factor, but that was just so uncompetitive in a way that was, a month earlier you did the same thing against Ole Miss. It was just kind of like, what are we doing here? And I guess it's also just like, you knew those games were coming, so how are you going to use that first month of the season? And it didn't, again, feel like there was much of a plan for that other than it's hard, we'll probably take some losses. I don't know that they knew that much more about the team than they did the beginning of the season, which you can find little micro things in games.
That's my theory for all of those games, was that we were trying to find out what our team was, and that he was just like, oh, we're going to lose anyway, so we may as well just treat these like scrimmages and like figure out what we've got, so when we hit conference play, we hit the ground running. And then we hit conference play and we were like, what is
shit,
this?
This didn't get better.
Are we still scrimmaging? Did they miss the note? Like,
I think there was a conscious, and part of this was the TJ Finley issue. So again, he gets cleared the week of the Ole Miss game. So and Dell's kind of been one of those guys, from what I understand, just like Kirby is. If you're not practicing during the week, you're not playing on Saturday. So he didn't practice basically up until I think either Wednesday or Thursday. This is Dell's words. Brady was there. But like basically when we were kind of hammering out the timeline so TJ officially gets cleared. He basically goes through practice in the middle of Ole Miss week.
I think he was the scout team for Ole Miss.
Yeah, so like he's there, and it wasn't like he was away. Like, I mean, Dell's been very open and honest about this, at least to us, and publicly kind of continued to gotta go, that he had been around since May. So it wasn't like, hey, I'm just showing up and getting my uniform and helmet on Monday, the Ole Miss week. So like he was comfortable with the playbook. He knew what was going on. He just couldn't physically practice until basically he was cleared. So he wasn't in game shape. It was going there. So when Ole Miss happens, and basically, and I can tell you from just the participation report and rewatching that game in the second half, the staff punted the game. I mean, they basically realized at halftime, it's over. Like, we're done. We're not competing on any level. It's over. We're going to play as many guys as possible. And I don't hate that plan in that week 1. But then when they put TJ in, and they kind of continue to bang their head against the wall when it's not working. And from what I understand, too, there was some disagreement basically within the team. And I think, again, players want to play and they want to play well. And when they're seeing poor play from their quarterback, you have kind of a fraction effect. We saw it a little bit very early in Darren Granger's career. When he was here, you had multiple quarterback situation, and you had like, I'm team Darren Granger, and then it was like team everybody else, kind of Quad Brown-ish, and then not really. We've kind of seen this movie before. The tough part about it for me is when your offensive line isn't great or even good, I'm always going to lean in a quarterback that can get out of the way, that can go and say, I can go find 3, 4, 5 or more yards, because to Brady's earlier point, the entire recruiting philosophy was go find supreme athletes at the quarterback position. They may not complete 70% of their passes, but they can get the heck out of Dodge when we need to. That's why PJ Hatter was brought in. My man played 1 snap this year, tore his ACL. Just terrible luck. Welcome to GSU. Tap the sign. Even TJ Stanley, the young man, the freshman who ended up basically being the backup quarterback emergency-wise at the end of the season, he's a dual threat guy. He can run. He ran for over, I think, 1,200, 1,300 yards in his career in high school. So you have kind of a framework, and then to kind of take a hard left turn and saying, all right, we're going to go and get a guy who's less athletic than Christian Veyer. Christian can actually move a little bit.
Wheels Veyer. He was running those last couple of games.
You're actually
around
getting somebody who can't move even worse. And then it showed itself for basically 4 or 5 weeks in a row. If this guy gets any kind of pressure, it's over. The play's dead. So if he doesn't have the first read, he's stuck. And then to y'all's earlier point, he just didn't value the football between interceptions, and some of them were bad luck, tips and things like that. But also he fumbled, and that just can't happen. And that's been a Dell mantra since he's been here is if you turn the ball over, you don't play. And it was completely the opposite. He continued to be the guy. And I think that really stunted this offense's growth in the first 6 or 7 weeks.
The other thing I'd add there, you mentioned the Ole Miss game, kind of the punting on it. They did, but they didn't let Cam Brown do anything. He played the second half, and he didn't throw the ball, but like 5 yards down the field, but a couple of times. But when he threw it, was like in the flat.
It got worse. Yeah,
and
it got worse.
It made it, it was such in a phone booth that it was like Ole Miss just had their base defense, and he didn't get to learn anything from that game. They didn't get to see that, he can chuck it down the field pretty good, and he was the accurate deep ball thrower. And so that's why I talk about not using those games is like, yes, I get it that at a certain point you're trying to save yourself for another day and it got out of hand in a hurry there in like the third quarter. But when Cam Brown's in there, if you're just going to have him throw to screen passes in the flat or hand it off, have Christian back out there. Like you're not 100%. Helping him learn anything there. And
correct.
That just kind of speaks to, I don't really know what's going on with the quarterback then.
So Brady, I wanted to ask you this question because you're in the press box and you do the pregame during the week pressers and post-game pressers and stuff like that. You talk to, or at least you hear from the coaches far more than we pay attention to. And
they post the video. You just can't ask the questions.
Well, they don't post the video for any of the games after ODU, including ODU.
So
there wasn't one after ODU.
One SID, boys.
I didn't see the video. I didn't see the video posted on YouTube. I haven't seen anything posted on YouTube since that game.
Fair enough.
One SID.
So
just
my question to you, Ryan, you're not wrong. My question to you, Brady, is I know there are things that, there's you gotta walk that line. Like, there's things you want to ask, you want to talk about on the record, but you can't. It's inappropriate. It's not what press would say. We talked about all season long this dual quarterback system that McGee was implementing, and even when it works okay, it never really works very well. How hard was it for you not to be like, why the hell do you think you're the first coach in all of college football that's going to make dual quarterback system work?
So not very hard, if that's the question. That was not an instinct I had. No, I mean, you ask questions a certain way because you want them to answer it, is the truth of it. Aside from like fans shouldn't have credentials because you're going to ask, like, you're going to try and get in a fist fight with the coach after, like, but like you don't want fans asking you because you want them to, you want to get
I want to get into a
answers.
fist fight, but I want a good answer.
And I tried a couple of different angles to get it. And eventually the one I settled on, I forget which post game this was, but I was basically like, if you were planning this offense where you have a mobile quarterback and you also have another guy who is in the pocket, how during the week could you get them both ready and get the offense ready for a cohesive plan? Because you've only got so many reps in practice. And if they're both taking them and you're trying to build a game plan, like TJ may be running plays that are built for Cam in a certain spot, if they're a certain down and distance, and it's like, that's not built for success. And it was just kind of like that's when he kind of talked about like the things that were going on, that there wasn't anything going on. Like that got blown way out of proportion and was a total just miss from the podium from the head coach, who just has to be able to manage the podium a little bit better. I mean, just straight up.
I mean, I guess in a different way, Brady, like the 2 quarterback system, throw that out. Were you ever able to glean anything from any conversations, overhearings, pressers, post-game, pre-game, side conversations that why did we stick with TJ for so long when it was clear to like everyone, even probably the most casual fan that has no clue what's going on? Hey, this guy, just it doesn't look like a good quarterback. I don't know why are we going the other one?
My main thing was just pick someone. If you're going to go with TJ, just have him get all the reps during the week, build the offense around him where it's I'm saying this is a guy who threw for 3,000 yards at Texas State.
Exactly.
Like,
how many picks per game did he throw? I mean,
not
like
that
really.
many. He had a good year.
He was super
Here it was like 3 per game. He lost the football. Like it's crazy.
He actually didn't. You have to go back and look at that.
2.5.
Well, we're not a stats podcast, Brady. Come on.
That's
All right,
fair.
we're not
2.5.
We make up a lot of stuff.
Are you not including fumbles? Sorry, I was throwing fumbles in there too.
2.5 turnovers per game for TJ. How about that?
The standard line was always, we like what both of these guys do. And it's not a very satisfying answer, but that is basically where it was what you were going to get. At a certain point, I think they realized, but then unfortunately, like you mentioned, Cam got hurt the last couple of games, so we didn't see it at the end of the year. I don't know that it makes a difference, although they were in that ODU game and they were in that Troy game, but would have liked to see him get to close out the season because he still has years and at least a year, and so you're hoping he sticks and that you can build towards. I think if he had played the rest of the season, even if they don't win all the games, maybe you have something to hold on to heading into the offseason, but it's like it felt like a real damp note, just kind of like playing out the rest of the season. Ted ends up being hurt for the Troy game, just like it just kind of went with a whimper of already a whimper of a season going 1-11.
So Cam lost the ball one time, and he threw for about the same amount of yards and about the same amount of attempts as Finley did. And then he threw more than twice the touchdowns in the same number of yards. So like you go and you look at the stats that are like just popping out. Like I don't like they're actually very similar in regards to like yardage and just general production. But then when you go look at what the touchdowns did, like Cam Brown obviously offered some kind of spark and was actually just doing some of the things that like you don't really see that jump out on the stat sheet, but like turn into touchdowns. And then the turnover type thing too, where like you just look at Finley's turnovers compared to Cam Brown's turnovers, and it just screams at you like this is like normal coach stuff. This is what they talk about in their post games. They're like, you have to do X, Y, Z. You got to score touchdowns. That's really easy stuff, right? But like, then you can't throw picks. You can't turn the ball over. Whoever wins the turnover battle wins the game, right? Like this is normal, the first thing out of every coach's mouth. And like none of that was happening under Finley. So it's sort of like, I don't know. I just look at it and I'm like, what was happening? You know?
Yeah, I mean, and that is ultimately like you look at the situation and think that Cameron Brown was the old guy, the vet, the guy who's, validating the ball. And so it was one of those things where you're seeing it happen and it just wasn't clear exactly what was going on. And it just speak to not sticking to any kind of plan.
I think Finley is like 30 years old. So,
well, the thing is, he's not.
He's really
no, I know.
He's on a normal track, and people were like taking the track of like making all the jokes on Twitter when he got announced, and everyone thought it was like a camp signee, like they just brought him in when there was the whole deal going on. Part of that was it wasn't communicated because he hadn't gotten cleared yet, so it was like we're not going to talk about it until he's going to play. But obviously that situation feeds into it, and then when
he's no Pavia,
clearly
he's going to retire next year from everything. He's turning 65.
I think isn't he suing the NCAA again?
Well,
he's not. That's over. That's what Jared Curtis said.
He's done.
I believe from what they've said, he was doing that for the precedent, not that he wants the year himself.
He's done.
Gotcha.
Yeah. He may win the Heisman Saturday, by the way.
I actually appreciate the setting the precedent thing. Like, I don't really want to play, but like, I want players to benefit from my experience.
So look at Maurice Claret. Maurice Claret tried to do it. He was vilified, and he started something.
Talk about a different era.
True.
I'm very player centric. I don't know if you guys listen to the podcast, but I'm very like the players deserve a lot of power here.
They deserve employees.
Just wait till the players union happens. That's going to happen. I just need certified agents, by the way.
Man, I'm not a fan of that idea at all. So,
my friend.
I mentioned it before, like, the way that we structure the out-of-conference, and Ben, you've been pretty vocal on Panther Talk about better out-of-conference scheduling and, like, how smart programs like Liberty have been and Kennesaw have been about their out-of-conference scheduling. Yeah, I know, Ryan. I know Liberty's a four-letter word in your household.
Yeah.
We were just going down the whole hill was just like mudslide.
But the question I wanted to ask you, to Ben, was, so my concern looking at that schedule before the season ever started was, I know that first 4-game slate was tough. Obviously, Murray State was supposed to be win, and it was. But I always get concerned when you have like a really, really difficult like start of a season and losing the locker room. And like, how early can that happen? And it definitely seems like by the end of the season, just based off of nothing more than like social media type posts from players and parents of players and conversations we had at tailgates and things like that, that locker room, it seems like it got lost. What's going on?
I mean, losing
behind
sucks.
Off the field.
That's what it is.
Losing sucks. No one likes to lose.
I love
a lot
it.
of these guys came here to win. And I think the hardest part about it, and Brady's heard this mantra before too, when you go and recruit guys, no matter where they're coming from, right? High school, junior college, transfer portal, if they're transferring down from a Power 4, which obviously there was a bunch guys there. There were lateral guys coming from other, group of 6 programs. There were guys moving up, obviously. I mean, Ted Hurst came from, Valdosta State, a Division II school, for example. These guys want to come here and win. And again, like you guys talked about, this is the player empowerment era where they legitimately have agency to go whenever or wherever. When things are going poorly and you see it just kind of careening off the tracks, it's very difficult for coaches to continue to have guys lock in on this. And as I mentioned a little earlier, if these guys haven't played a lot or don't have a lot of experience and are just young in age, it's very difficult because they haven't tasted that defeat so much. A lot of these guys came from high achieving programs, whether it's high school level, junior college level, et cetera. So it's hard for them to quantify and be like, okay, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and it's still not working. So then blame happens. And I caution folks, be careful listening to parents. Parents, I'm a parent of a recruited student athlete today. You're always going to have your own and your own child's best.
And they should. They should be their best advocates.
I support that behavior, but you have to understand it in context. Some of these guys that hit the transfer portal or have announced they're going to hit the transfer portal basically because the portal's not open yet. Not all of them were offered an opportunity to come back. I'll start there. So a lot of folks that are coming and talking about that, they may not be scheme fit because we have to remind folks, year 1 with Del McGee, 1 defensive coordinator and 1 schematic difference. Year 2, different defensive coordinator, schematic differences. So even, oh, by the way, same on the offensive side of the ball. Hugh Jackson was here. They're running a different offense. So not everybody fits. Also, not everybody fits off the field either. And I'll kind of say that and let you guys understand what I'm saying. The recruiting mantra this cycle has been very different. I mean, 80 difference in terms of what the values are and what they're the characteristics of guys at least signed in the 2026 class so far.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that because we can talk about how garbage this season was. I mean, until we're blue in the face, but
keep killing it. It's dead. It's dead. Sorry.
What does the future of this football program look like? I think we all know that Del McGee is around for another year. If he was going to be fired, he would have been fired by now.
Correct.
With all perception being that Cobb is on his way out, we don't see any coaching changes happening really within any of the programs in the next few months. Where do we look?
Don't subscribe to that last part, but go on.
Okay, well, we can talk about that later, Brady, if you want to. But so what does 2026 Georgia State football look like? We've already saw, I mean, just today, I think what we saw 3 different assistants have left the program. 2
assistants, 1 off field.
Okay, 1 off field.
Yeah,
and then you've got players that have announced that they'll be entering the portal. We have commits. What does it look like? Ben, you're the recruiting guy. What does 2026 Georgia State football look like, and do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think there's a lot of contingencies to this as well. I think the first wave of folks like entering or announcing they're entering the portal, there's obviously immediate needs, right? I think there's, obviously secondary, right? Your entire secondary needs to be replaced.
Sure.
But the just glut of defensive linemen that are on the way is bonkers to me. We know defensive line was a problem because how many injuries were there. What do? You throw money at it. You throw resources at it. Again, you need at least one quarterback, probably two. If the current running back stable stays, I think that's a room that you really like. Obviously, you have to replace Ted Hurst in some capacity, and I don't think that's going to be just one person's job.
It's the aggregate. I saw Moneyball. You replace in the aggregate, right?
Tonk Dorsey is like the next profile of Ted Hurst.
Yeah,
the guy they added.
He definitely profiles, and he's physically bigger. He's 6'5" and 210 already. Also, keep an eye out, and I'll tease just folks that are watching this. Brady already knows this because we have the group text that goes on forever. There happens to be Cameron Brown's first cousin who just jumped in, or announced he's jumping in the portal. He's a very highly recruited wide receiver who did not play at a Power 4 school last year. Once that becomes official, I expect him to visit, and I would almost expect he will have other offers, but I think he wants to come and help out his
Pretty
first
cool.
visit.
Have your brother throwing to your brother.
That will help.
At the Brown family Christmas party, I'll make sure to
just to stop by, but
nudge him in the right direction.
I think, again, they addressed a lot of needs. I'm very interested to see. We've seen it in the Sun Belt. There has been FCS and even Division II guys hit at the Sun Belt level. You haven't seen a whole lot of P4 dropdowns hit, except from what I understand and kind of the metrics and folks that I've talked to across the league, except at quarterback and at tackle. Like a lot of the other positions don't really hit. So I think this cycle you won't see a lot of guys that were at big programs. And let's just be candid here, right? If you're at an LSU, Georgia, Tennessee or whatever, you're going to walk in and think, oh, I can freaking dominate. The question that I continue to have was like, why didn't a guy like Marlon Dean come down here and have 10 or 11 sacks this year? He didn't. And I'm looking at him and going, that guy should come down here physically and dominate in this league. And he didn't. So is that on him? Is that on the scheme? Is that on his work ethic or attitude? I don't know. Like Brady said, I'm not in the locker room, but I think, again, a lot of these guys stay. Grant Hollier, guys stays. Keelan Butler stays. A lot of the guys that were freshmen, I mean, you're in the 13, 14, 15 freshmen that played this year. All those guys come back. All the time they saw the field, pays dividends.
Speaking of the freshmen, this was the top Sun Belt. This 2025 class was the top Sun Belt class, best class in Georgia State history
by miles.
And ever
right
by a Sun Belt program ever until App State just broke it.
Right. So but I was like, that's great, but typically you don't play a lot of freshmen, in their season. So it starts paying dividends in that junior year. So will we see? I mean, assuming they stick around and don't enter transfer portal, will we see like a significant bump in the level of talent that's gonna be on the field this coming season?
If you ask Dumb McGee and the staff, absolutely that's the plan.
It's happening,
of course.
Yeah.
But double our win total.
But in reality, too, the goal is, and it should be in every recruiting class, you should be able to you should try to out recruit your previous class, right? This class should basically build the foundation and then kind of go back, and guys that want to play together, going back and recruiting big programs. I mean, the thing, and Brady and David and I talked about it on the pod last week.
Other David.
Other David. Shout out. But going
better looking David.
Going to places like Valdosta or going to Colquitt and grabbing guys from power programs who are well coached, who are, again, powerhouse programs where you know what you're getting. You go back, I mean, look at the players that have hit from Colquitt, for example. Gabe Mobley, starter at center. Marcus Anderson, contributor at linebacker. Flournoy was basically a contributor, almost a starter, basically defensive tackle. Going back to Colquitt and grabbing two more guys, you get a full thumbs up from me 100% of the time. Now, there's other guys that I need to wait and see, right? We want to see if these guys from Division II or FCS pop. But these guys, and Brady will tell you because we looked at their profiles and studied some of it, they're productive, man. And I'd rather have productive guys that come in and that are not going to get scared away and know what they're doing on the field when they're given a direction, not only pregame, but during the week. I mean, a lot of these guys come from programs that have won, and They're captains, they're leading tacklers, they're super productive. They're guys that have, played well at their respective levels. And I think for the most part, I'm seeing as well, like really good character guys, high achievers, high GPA guys too. That helps. That matters.
Not
Does
to
it?
like
We're
us, I'm on the wrong.
privatizing sports right now, so why does GPA matter?
We're on like the wrong side.
Not
I'm
there
doing
yet.
the angel devil on the shoulder thing.
Student athlete.
Okay.
Sorry.
But
Yeah.
look, the end of all of this is true, and yet I don't think this was a 111 talented team in 2025.
Agreed.
They just weren't put in enough positions to succeed. And so all of this is right. It's not the same like ballyhooed recruiting class that it was a year ago, but it's another good one. The two best days that Del McGee has had and his staff has had since coming to Georgia State are last signing day and this signing day. But it's what is the next step as far as making sure the staff in 2026 is better equipped, what you have the right scheme on both sides of the ball, and still, I think, trying to pin down what exactly you want to be on both sides of the ball. Because I don't think that they still have a sense of how they can put the piece, like this last year, they didn't have the sense of how to put the pieces they had into a cohesive product on either side of the ball, and it kind of showed in the way the results went how it was inconsistent.
I mean, they certainly tried.
Putting us in the place to do the right thing here. And today we got like sort of an avalanche of news about people leaving the program, people being poached away from the program, and that's cool, right? I mean, as where we are in the Sun Belt and as a G, whatever we're calling ourselves now, you expect your coaches to get hired away every 2 to 3 years. If you're not, then you're doing the wrong thing. But we've not seen, even though we went 1-11, we've not heard anything from our athletic department, and we've not heard anything from our football program about letting any of those people go who were not necessarily doing a good job. And so I'm sort of curious as to like where we go, like the other side of the coin there. Like you can't have a season so bad and then just be like, yeah, but our coaching staff was great. And all of us seem to agree that like the talent on the field was actually sufficient to win a couple more of those games. Like we actually all agree, I think, that we had
my
players
preseason was
who could do
5-7,
but
and it was like maybe you find your way to a bowl. There's some win, like you could be competitive in Sun Belt play, and they weren't enough of the time. And
we weren't
they
at
should have
all,
been.
except for in the James Madison game. The James Madison game was the only competitive game we played this season outside of Murray State.
And, to plug the piece on Panther Talk, like I talked about, like a school that maybe shouldn't be named on this pod. The Sunday or the Monday after the final game, even though they're playing in a bowl game, announced they're firing their defensive coordinator, which their fans have been calling for since last year, but like especially over the final months of the season.
They want more than that.
Yeah, but we had
was
silence.
the worst
just
defense
silence.
in the nation.
That is the thing
they
that
were the worst. Not Georgia State.
They were.
They were.
That was the one they were gonna get, and they got it immediately. And so, I think it's a case of, I mean, if you want to put it like this, like if there were 10 times the people replying on tweets of final scores, maybe something like that had happened. I just don't know if there is the feeling that there is the appetite that there needs to be those kind of big pronouncements, because I think for
I hope
the
tweet
way that they
replies
manage
are not
this,
the reason that people get fired. For
No,
real. Like if that's, and like fire the AD, fire whoever's making that decision.
but
that's
if
what
you're
they're
talking
doing.
about like the need for a statement, I'm thinking those conversations have been going on, and they had to manage signing day. Always, you're trying to kind of
Where are those conversations happening?
not in, we're not in those meetings.
We can't see them. But
I
hey,
don't
wait,
believe
wait,
you.
wait,
I don't
wait.
believe they're happening.
So-
I mean, I've seen no evidence. I don't believe you at all. So like, that's a bold claim.
All right, so wait, correct me if I'm wrong. Has our athletic department made any statements about this year not being acceptable? That hey, this is below the standard.
But
hey,
has Charlie Cobb ever made a statement like that, though, Tim?
look,
He's
ChatGPT
been here
is
11
out there, man.
years, dude.
He
Like,
could
I mean, this
type
is the thing
in.
about it.
I
There's
know,
the people
but
that
make
expect
it.
things like he is who he is. Like he's been in college
Mhm.
athletics long enough, and this is what I cautioned everybody as well about when it was Dell or even Jonas. Guys, like from his experience here and at App State, he doesn't make rash decisions like this. And when you sign a football coach to a 5-year contract, even as bad as it has been, he hasn't fired anybody with that amount of time. And how I got it explained to me, whether you like it or not, that also means paying somebody for 3 years for not working for you.
Well,
We're just a balance sheet is what you're
based on the
saying, Ben.
suites.
We're a
Based on the
balance sheet.
suites,
Georgia State.
when we're playing App State, I'm not convinced that he thinks we're not App State. So
They're buying them. I mean, this is the thing about it. If you
I don't believe you
have
either.
suites,
Show me the
you're
receipts.
selling them and you
I don't
can
believe
sell
you.
it.
Well,
We know he's all about the budget, man. I mean, this is the thing
We
about
are
it.
a balance sheet.
I do not believe you because we had a suite and we were told we could not purchase it. So
From what I understand, there was about 30 suites that were basically being utilized 2 or 3 years ago. How many of them are filled now?
Oh, that
Handful?
club section, you can make an argument to close the entire
You just
Totally
made it
agree.
level
myths.
down.
You made it
Down to
myths
the lower
night.
level.
at Center Park Stadium because there's nothing happening. It's a ghost town up there. When I say ghost town, I know every single person in the club section.
We all
Because
do. All 5
so
of us.
we
could walk
also-
down
we
there and know
also-
every
There's
single
like
person.
30 of us.
100%.
We also represent a community of Georgia State fans, whether, like not necessarily the whole community, right? But we represent a substantial community of Georgia State fans, and no one has ever reached out to us to even for a single game get a suite for anything. And we've even talked about we've instigated conversations about renting out loge seating, which is completely unused every single game, whether the suites are full or not. The loge seating is completely empty, and we've broached discussions around that, and we just sort of get the runaround. There's no follow up. There's no
There was
nothing.
only
We're
one
like, you know
person-
what? Like,
There was one person in athletics that was supportive of us doing that, and then he quit. So I mean, and he went on and got a great job, and
sure,
he's doing
sure.
well. Yeah. But there was
We've
one
broached
person.
it many other times. So
Yes, there was one person be supportive of it, and once he left, that it fell on deaf ears. All right,
seems like development
But
doesn't want to.
I
make
will
money.
just say, on the general point of just like the radio silence, I think it's an issue because you want people to be mad about seasons like this. You don't want them to happen, but you want to engender that sense of like 111 isn't okay, the way it looks
This
in
isn't
times
good.
isn't okay, and you risk people who be like that feeling like their voices aren't being heard, and you have the people who there are the people that are Georgia State grads that aren't like actively watching the games, but when success happens, they show up again. And you're risking those people never tuning in again. It's like, does anyone care? And you don't
So,
make like
Are you in our group?
firings to change
Brady,
that.
are you in our group chat?
Brady,
I think
Brady,
you are.
Brady, we are living in a state right now, and we play football in a state where there is a G6 conference champion up the highway. Okay, we
That
play
very
in a
nearly went to the
conference-
college football playoff.
Well,
we're playing in a conference where a team will be playing on I don't know the 20th or whatever the hell it is against Oregon in a college football playoff game.
Kudos to Jay Nance,
and-
by the way. That's pretty cool.
$350K, baby. That's the most important thing Georgia State fans need to
We
understand.
need that money.
That's how much money you get paid for
I
just
don't
doing
care
nothing.
about that at all. But what I'm saying is we are we
I
are
do.
right there in this area, and we won one game. We won one game against an FCS opponent that most people say wasn't even a convincing win. Why is there no, to Ryan's point, why is there not screaming coming out of Center Park Stadium from Charlie Cobb saying, this is unacceptable. This is not Georgia State football. This is not what we do. We aspire, we deserve, we are expected to be the best at what we do. And we look like an absolute laughing stock. I made a tweet today, Ryan. Tim got pissed off at me about it. I responded to a tweet today about something. They made fun of us for being a D2 program. And I'm like, I literally can't get mad at this. I can't get mad at being associated, at being a Division II football program for the
It just
way
hurts because it was KSU.
this
Yeah, they're
athletic
having their day.
program.
They're
It's
having their day.
acting.
But I sure missed those tweets when Georgia State basketball was running the Sun Belt and Georgia State football won 8 games.
I missed those too.
So, again, every dog has its day. Brady has said it over and over again. You're only one bad hire at this level from being back to the toilet. So,
Yeah, I mean,
good luck
that's what
to 'em.
it like.
They made the right hire. They
I
did a good
understand
job.
the
Kudos to them,
general.
right?
I like. You don't need to sell any like. So I was on an App State pod and was asked about the Charlie Cobb thing, and I couldn't even give like a whole answer on just like the fan base's feelings on like where everyone's at. But like that aside, it is that we spent the first 40 minutes of this talking about like the football reasons it's going wrong. Like Charlie Cobb isn't the reason the team went 111, and maybe there's things they
He
get
might
more
be.
from resources.
He really might be.
Del McGee is always going to ask for more because he's always going to want, like, you want your football coach to be asking for more resources, wanting to take the program to another step. But like that's all micro stuff compared to just like stuff wasn't working on the football field. The roster construction wasn't right, putting them in the right position wasn't right. And so at this point, you kind of want the department to step in and like kind of raise the bar and just say this isn't going well in whatever form that takes, whether that's coming from the AD, whether it's coming from the football coach, someone just kind of stepping up. And I don't have answers for you. I put an article just kind of spelling out like this is what, not even like the programs that you're trying to aspire to be one day, but just like, Nevada fired their offensive coordinator after a 3-win season in their second year under a head coach.
Yeah.
We went
definitely
from talking about programs we aspire to be, the Houstons, the Cincinnatis, the UCFs, or whatever it is, to now looking up at Kennesaw State.
Whoa. I'm not
and
looking
Jacksonville
at Kennesaw State.
State.
But
No.
I
And
will say
hell,
this.
I'll even put
Just
Delaware
one season
in
for
there.
Delaware.
ODU.
Delaware's a bowl game.
ODU, for God's sake.
Like this is like it's. I mean, I think I'm just go ahead and like establishing that I think that Charlie Cobb is ineffective at his role. Is Del McGee the guy that can even do this job? Like he seemed
That's
like
what I'm
a
saying. We
slam
don't
dunk
know
hire.
yet. We don't know yet.
Well, and I'm on the record of I'm okay. Like I think head coaches, you get 2 years, right? So like Dell's got his 2 years now, and I don't think you fire him after the exact 2 years. You say, all right, the key is how do you react in the face of adversity, right? And so it's like, what are we going to do about what's happening, right? He doesn't control every single thing. He does in a way, but the way that he controls it is he hires the people to do the things that he needs to be done. And so if they're not going out there and doing and accomplishing his vision or getting it done on the field or getting it done in the coaching and whatever, then he needs to be laying some of those people off. And I think at this point, if we're not laying people off, then I don't see it happening, right? Like I don't understand a coach that can look at this, but he does deserve another.
I would say that
some
is
games.
happening. I feel comfortable saying. I think they missed the opportunity to project that is happening.
Every other program in the country is projecting that it's happening.
think
We're the
these staff
only
will
ones
look
who aren't.
Wildly
We're
different
quiet.
in 2026,
Brady,
but it
but
won't become
I do
from
wanna
a
jump
press
in real
release on the.
I want to jump away.
go ahead.
I feel like I specifically, and maybe Ryan a little bit, have come across as like we're attacking you, like you're the
No,
one that's to
I
justify
do not feel that at
everything
all.
Georgia
I
State's
hope
doing.
not. Yeah.
But my point is, we're frustrated. You're the new guys, so we're just laying out to you.
Yeah.
So Brady, we're
So
silent but deadly. We're like those farts you just
Brady,
don't
though,
want.
it seems like
Georgia
you maybe
State.
know something, and I know that you can't share everything, whatever. But like, is there? So you can confirm
Sounds like there
that
is.
there's like
Yeah.
some motion. There's something happening behind the scenes right now that we.
There's motion today.
Exactly. And there will be more, boys. I mean, the thing about it, this is the season. Like Brady and I were talking about it before you guys jumped on and we were talking off the air. This is the time where assistant coaches move now because ultimately a lot of these colleges close their doors until the end of the calendar year. Most assistant contracts are done after the season. You don't need them basically through January unless you're for sure they're going to be back. I can tell you with 100% certainty, there will be more assistant coaches that move on from this staff. 100%. Whether it's forced, whether they go and get other opportunities.
No, see, that's what I want to know. I don't want to know whether they get hired away. I understand people will get hired away because I know we have some good talent on the staff. They can't all be bad, right?
We're saying
I understand that.
You have missed the window where you're going to get that satisfaction of like a press release with these are the people being let go. And I think it's a missed opportunity to have that be if you're letting these people go, to take some ownership of saying, this is not my standard. And I get that they're all friends. It's a hard thing to do. But at the end of the day, to pull from one of my favorite shows, Mad Men, that's what the money's for.
Sure.
Also, everyone else does it. Like, it's not even like this
It's
is just
also an
business.
ego
Like,
thing.
you should be able to walk into a room with your friend and say, this is just business. You didn't get it done. Sorry, man, you got to go. But I also understand you're going to get hired by the next guy, no problem, because it is a good old boys club. And that's frustrating to me on many
keep
different
in mind
levels.
this, guys.
Like, we're an outlier in this not announcing the letting the people go.
Not really. It happens a lot less than you think. There's 132 programs. Not all 132 come out with a press release. They just don't.
But I think in this moment after that season, it may be warranted. And I'm saying like that's not going to happen at this point. Like and so again,
that's not
whether
Dell,
you're talking about Charlie
Dell's not
Cobb
going to
or
be a guy who waves
Del
the flag
McGee.
and says, "Hey, I need a press release for this." He's just not that guy.
Well,
yeah, sure. It's
I know.
December 9th, and they haven't really
it
said
shouldn't
anything.
be his job
right?
to do that. He's got a whole athletic department that should be backing him up and doing the marketing and the press releases and all that stuff. But that doesn't happen either.
Marketing doesn't exist, Ryan. We've had
exactly.
That aside,
there's no such thing as marketing at Georgia State.
That wouldn't get put out unless
only
the head
have one
coach
of the
wants
top
it.
programs in the country.
It is not a
We
resources
got this.
thing that does not happen. It's just that's not the direction they want to go with how they're going into the offseason, which is going to make people who are locked in frustrated because they want your pound of flesh after a season like that. All I'd say is the staff will look different. It's all going to come together next few weeks. Obviously, Ben's on top of that stuff. Matt Zenitz and Chris Hummer, 247 on top of that stuff. What does that mean for 2026?
Every time he tags me in a tweet, I get nervous. Every time. Because there's sometimes I do know about it. There's other times where I'm like, uh-oh, what happened?
But, like, we won't know until 2026. And I think I referenced earlier the 2-10 season in 2018. I don't remember exactly what the feelings were, but I think people were a bit nervous about, is this tenure going to work out? And then I think probably the best season that Sean Elliott and his staff had here. And the only parallel I'll draw is if they keep Cameron Brown, the thing that held the glue together for that team in 2019 was you had Dan Ellington come back from 2018 when the team wasn't great, the offense wasn't great. They made the right coordinator hire, they got pieces around him, and it worked. And I'm not saying it's going to happen now.
Coordinator fire over there, Brady.
And Dan is maybe
like
not arguably even the best quarterback in program history. I know some people might argue about that, but I think Dan was. So
Nick Arbuckle, baby.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Dan Ellington was
anybody on that hill.
It's Dan or
Nick Arbuckle was the guy.
Dan or Nick.
He has set records that will not be broken.
It's one of the two.
Nick is the best coach this team has ever had. And Dan is the best quarterback this team has ever had.
Nick's the best.
I'll take
Quarterback coach. Go look at that staff from Trent Miles. As I remind you guys all the time, his OC and quarterback coach was Luke Heward. Go see where Luke Heward.
What's his name too? The wide receiver coach that came in that year one from he came from Detroit. I feel like from the Lions. I forget his name, but I remember watching his.
Coach Pup. That's Tim Lopano.
Not Lopano.
It was
Lopano, man.
They beat Southern in the dome.
Yeah, that was a neat staff. Honestly,
last game
that was
ever.
cool.
Last game ever in the Georgia Dome for Georgia State. And tag that.
You guys can argue day and night about whether or not Nick or Dan is the best quarterback in Georgia State's history, and I'll agree with both of you.
Yeah,
Fair.
It's hard to choose.
It is. I love them both, man. And shout out to Dan, man, doing great things at Illinois. Going to be in the Music City Bowl.
Great season for those guys, and Nick winning the Grey Cup at up there. I mean,
that running touchdown, Dan against Tennessee.
I know, but so that's the thing. Like,
it's the best running touch. It's the best running touchdown.
I'm only going to tell you guys this.
I mean,
if you look at it back, Sam Pinckney got away with the block in the back on that play.
I don't care. Whatever, man.
Whatever.
It's only a penalty Ben call it, right?
Exactly.
Even better because Sam was so good at cheating.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Sam's
Pinckney.
one of those guys that got away too, man. I mean, God, and he went to like Coastal. I know there were other personal
Family reasons
for that transfer, but man, Sam was
Get
amazing.
Life and kids and wife and he's
yeah.
We were talking about personnel changes, though. So, like, I know Brady, you kind of alluded to one. I mean,
well,
is there any
I was
chance,
not saying that that has happened already, but
is there any chance that Del McGee's sitting back here going, okay, this year, well, that didn't go to plan at all whatsoever. I still feel like I believe in my coordinator, my OC, my DC. I just had too many injuries. Things didn't work out. I'm going to hit the portal this year. I'm going to recruit. And next year, this is going to be different. These are my guys. I believe him. Or do you think I'm not so sure about my OCDC. Like, we might need to change this up because can't do this again next year. Where do you think he sits? Because you obviously have interviewed him multiple times and watched him speak at the podium. I mean, do you think he's thinking about changes, or do you feel like he's like, these are my guys. I brought them in. I'm going to keep them.
No, I mean, like, I don't know who the changes are yet, all of them, most of them, but I think there's going to be a different staff. I don't know exactly what shape that takes, but I can't commit to anything right now. I think
you don't have to
commit
to
anything. I will say the offense did actually look better over the course of the season when they settled on Cam Brown. That's the only. I don't know that the offense or the offensive direction was the issue as the season went on. It was just taking a while to get to that point.
I mean,
Brady, that was so obvious. We figured it out.
It was so frustrating to us that, like, we were getting better offensively. We still couldn't get out of that home and win games, mainly because, well, our defense was fairly non-existent, right?
Hey guys, we've gone almost an hour now, which is like, great. I think we beat football as a dead horse. Before Brady, before you and Ben have to bounce. Let's talk about basketball a little bit because it's not going any better and possibly going worse
Going
than
worse.
what football is doing. Do we have we have one Division One win? Do we have a Division One win?
Zero.
No
zero.
Division One win at this point in the season. And I know that Sun Belt, it can go all over the place and everything, but what the actual is going on in this basketball program?
The issue sometimes when I hear like the talk of like what Dell is doing, bringing in high character and all the rest of it, is we heard a lot of this in the offseason of like this is what Jonas's direction was taking when he was getting another year. They didn't identify right whether it was a case of not getting guys who could come here that they wanted and missing on targets, not developing Jelani Hamilton or Malachi Brown, taking a real big step.
Sorry, Brady, is it, to interrupt, I apologize. Is it we have not brought in the right players? Or are we not coaching up the players
there.
we've... Okay,
the
sorry.
ultimate point
I
is...
apologize.
Yeah, the ultimate point is I don't know what they are doing as far as putting the players they have with the skills they have in the right position to succeed. There's never been a real cohesive offensive plan. It's mostly been a lot of iso ball. And the biggest thing is this team is constructed pretty differently to even last year's team the year before, and it feels very samey. And it's not been working out. And what happened last year was Cesar Edwards just got really good in the middle of the season and found a real flow offensively. And it's really hard to defend a big who can shoot it from three, shoot it from mid-range, and it unlocks something with the offense. Jelani Hamilton grew up as a player. It was really his first time playing. And it felt like you had built on Jelani going forward. You felt like maybe you had something going into this year. And he hasn't been the problem offensively. He's been in and out of the lineup, but when he's been playing, he's been making his free throws. He's been making threes, but they didn't build around him and Malachi, develop them well enough in the offseason. And, I mean, you gave him a year 4 because you hoped that this would be the year it turned around. And then the opener, you lose by 22 at Eastern Michigan. And it felt like immediately like, okay, this is no different than the year before. And maybe it's going to get worse. And it did get worse. And
I mean, Brady, we're 1-9. It's
capped off by what happened last week, Kennesaw.
What are we shooting, like 25%, something like that?
The single worst Division One team shooting 2-point percentage shots.
Yeah, it's
we love
crazy how
threes,
bad
This is the worst offense that I can remember. And then we had Rod Barnes, and here's the worst thing, and I talked to somebody about it today. We have been a program that was one of the worst in the history of college basketball when Lefty took it over. And basically, we are now in a situation where the roster has been constructed in a way, to Brady's point, that it's not only not successful, most games they're not even competitive. And I think that's really what's bothering a lot of people. I'm on group chats with former players who are losing their minds because they're looking at it and going, I saw some of these guys in person in the summer doing things that they're not doing in any games. They're not making shots that they should make. There's guys that were brought in to do certain things that aren't doing. You know, Brady brought in Malachi. Like, we had an expectation from his basic, like, he was a sophomore last year, but he didn't really play at Seton Hall. So last year was kind of like his freshman year. You expect to see some progression there. You added Micah Tucker, who is an impact player at point guard. You thought the combination of them would be able to drive the bus. Well, Malachi, in a lot of ways, has regressed not only from shooting, but turnovers are up, assists are down. I mean, this is also one of the worst passing teams that I can remember. That's the one thing about Ron Hunter's teams is they passed the ball well, they defended, they turned you over.
They played
those pieces right there don't exist.
I have
in this team this year.
I have the lowest basketball IQ of anyone, but when you watch a Ron Hunter team, these guys, when they took the ball down court, they knew exactly where everybody else was on the court. They knew where to pass the ball, how to get it there, and do it efficiently. I have not seen. It looks like a bunch of guys. It looks like rec league basketball.
Well,
a bunch of guys
started taking it up the court part.
Yeah.
Inbounds has been an issue, and you're playing a lineup with 2 point guards most of the year. Like, that is and that's not on them. Like, I don't think that they are incapable of dribbling the basketball up the court, handling pressure. They're just not getting in sets where it's benefiting them. They're getting trapped. You're having the wrong people take the ball up the court, leading to some silly turnovers, and it's all compounding. And surprise, surprise, 10 games in with only one win against a 91 team, they're not playing confident right now. And that's, I will say, I wasn't at the game against Kennesaw, which I think mercifully in the end. I got the post-game audio from Stan Autry of the AJC, who was there, talked to Jonas.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 2.5 clip of audio, 2.5 minute clip of audio. He said, we're just not a confident bunch right now, 5 times in those 2.5 minutes. So
Sounds
it is
about right.
not only a case of, like, that's accurate, but it's also, you look at it and you don't see any reason why right now it's going to get any better. Because it doesn't seem like there's any answers, because we're seeing by and large the same thing game after game.
Right, who said that?
This is from Jonas after the game against Kennesaw.
Jonas.
Well, it's his job to do that, to instill that in his players. That's why I got a little. I was like, did I miss something? I thought you were talking about Jonas, but I'm like, that's coaching. That's pure. That's what his job is to do.
But here's the bigger problem, guys. Like, if you're losing every game by 20, how in the world? And again, the plan is not working.
Well, shoot.
We
Just
know
shoot
that
the ball, get 2 points. You
right?
know?
But
trying that.
But you have guys that are not hitting shots. Like, they came in that were, shot. And this is what was my concern coming into the season, is who are going to be the shot creators and the shot makers. We talk about the Ron Hunter team, but even Rob Lanier's teams, you had guys who could create shots for themselves or others. And I mean, I had it explained to me by the GOAT himself, RJ Hunter, last year at a football game.
Shipe's just tossing him the ball as quick as he can.
Well, no, it wasn't just that. With Ron's teams, he had a guy or multiple guys who, when the shot clock was draining, would just literally say, F it, I'm going to go take it myself, and I'm going to score, get fouled, or kick it to somebody else to score. And it happened over and over and over again, every one. I don't see that on this team. I see a lot of stress on the offensive sets. And what's worse is when you have enough of film on this team and the personnel. And again, the other coaches are getting paid too. What has been discussed from people who have been around and scouted this team, this is from not outside of GSU, mind you. This team is easy to defend. This team is easy to break down. And that's danger, because when you make it easy to defend, you have almost no shot. You may shoot the ball great in a half, like we've seen this season.
We've seen it.
But we don't.
Yeah.
But you can make adjustments and tweaks and say, oh, they're not going to, statistically, we've seen it over 10 games, they're not going to shoot this percentage the rest of the way. We just need to keep defending the way we're doing. And it's played out that way. And I just warn all the fans, again, who are fans of Georgia State basketball, Jacksonville State's well coached, well drilled. Their record isn't great right now, but they're a good basketball team. And here comes Georgia Southern, who is one of the fastest teams in the country in terms of pace. They will score 100 points, and they may not defend. They may give up 100 points to some. They're not giving up 100 points to this bunch, I don't believe. And that game could get really, really ugly.
It does feel like a game of hot potato, though, watching the team. Like, you can watch the shot clock, and someone has the ball, and there's about 8 seconds left. The uncomfortable level, you can tell that
100%.
vibe of, like, I got to get rid of this ball. I don't want
that
to
is
be the
where
last one.
You need to have better offensive sets, and also
We don't have them.
Yeah, and some of it is also just, this is a downgrade in offensive talent from last year. And but none of these teams have played to their potential. None of them, I think, are like Sunbelt winning teams.
No.
But there's been a lack of putting them in the right position to play to their potential every season. In this case, it might be the worst, because this might be the worst collection of the roster from the 4 seasons. And, not a surprise necessarily when you've had 3 losing seasons. I'm sure there were a lot of other attractive options for some players in the portal. There's like, look, I'm going to go here where they're winning games. And at a certain point, you can't kind of get that off. And so it was a risk. It was kind of a case of give some money for NIL, don't pay a buyout, let it reduce a little bit. And if this next year doesn't go well, then movement's made. The thing I would say, because I know it's coming next, his last basketball hire he made at Appalachian State, Charlie Cobb, Jason Capel, 4 losing seasons, out after 4. He made that decision. So as far as the football stuff, bigger number, less years here, I don't think there's much of a question about what's going to happen with basketball. It's just a matter of a win. And I'd also say
4 is too many.
This could flip.
4 is too many. 2 is not enough. 4 is too many. Right?
But Brady, it's like we think we believe, we've been told that Charlie is out after this season or after this.
Well, we don't have news of a renewal, right?
We
And,
don't. We
know that it's coming up, and We should have heard by now.
Do we think that it would be Charlie's first fire of a hire that he's had? Do you see that happening?
That's not true. He's fired several of those.
He's fired Olympic sports.
You can go through.
Yeah.
At Georgia State.
Yeah,
who was he?
at Georgia State.
His own
Who's he
hires?
fired that he hired?
Multiple softball coaches,
Soccer,
volleyball
volleyball.
coaches,
I've been-
baseball. Frady.
Yeah.
No, but he didn't hire Freddie.
Frady.
Okay, well, he was there for a few years. It wasn't like I'm getting this guy out. He was there for I think 5 years after Charlie got hired, so it wasn't
Well,
like
I've
a
been-
rash.
I've been
decision.
spreading
Yeah,
lies.
but it
in.
was about like
I've been spreading
who was
lies.
hired,
I've been
but
spreading
yeah.
lies. I
Yeah,
didn't think
David,
that. I
you're
didn't
a
think that Charlie fired anyone. Who have we fired under Charlie's tenure?
Yeah,
Fired
softball,
Trent.
women's basketball, court volleyball. I know just
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
There's certainly it hasn't happened in a few years, and it hasn't happened in one of the major sports because Sean Elliott chose of his own accord to leave.
Right.
Rob
right.
Lanier and Ron Hunter both chose of their own accord to leave. So, granted, it
Well,
hasn't happened in a while.
Hunter chose on his own accord by being waived very. By
There's a lot to there.
I
You
say,
can
you
read
know,
all
y'all
the
know-
articles.
Believe
I'm
me.
on the record. I
No,
think
I-
both sides of that conversation behaved very poorly.
Of course.
Yeah,
I'm very upset with Ron Hunter with how he handled that situation,
Me too.
and I'm
Me
very
too.
upset with our side with
But-
how we handled that
Right.
situation.
But I don't.
Ron Hunter is my favorite coach that's ever coached at Georgia
Yeah.
State.
Yeah, but he was a
That-
shitty
that-
guy, and when it came to
That being said, Ryan. That being said,
But also go
I don't
understand. go
like
look
how
at his
his
press
tenure
conferences
ended.
that season. He was telling you he was gone.
Yeah.
We just
Sorry,
didn't have
David,
the
go ahead.
context. He was gone.
no, I was just saying.
The
I was just saying,
conversations,
like,
and shout out to Doug Robertson who covered the story perfectly. Basically, communication had stopped in October of that year before the first game
Season
happened
started.
with
Right.
Ron's agent. It was over. So if you go back and watch the post game pressers, it was over. My biggest complaint, and I've told Coach Hunter this because he'll actually answer the phone when I call or text. It was a mistake, in my view, for him to leak during the actual game that basically he was a candidate for the Tulane job. He
It's like the
also
first media
was
timeout.
interested in at least one SEC job. He just didn't get the call back. So he went to Tulane, and he's done really well at Tulane and elevated
he
them
was
to a point where
playing
they got
games
a
with us, which is frustrating. And I have a little bit in my heart that's upset with him about that. I understand he's the winningest coach and blah blah blah.
He'll
but,
be back. He'll be back soon
um,
enough. He still lives here. He still has a house. here
Yeah,
in the Navy
no,
District.
I know his
Yeah.
wife loves Atlanta, so
He ain't leaving. The grandkids are here.
anchor.
She wants those grandkids.
The
you know, she gotta be
grandkids
there
are here.
with those grandkids.
Uh-huh.
All right, guys. I think that we kind of punched through
Talked
a
it to
bunch of
death.
topics. Hey, Ben and Brady, I really appreciate you guys coming on, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and make it a more regular thing.
Maybe
It's like-
less
'cause-
dready in the future.
Hopefully, we're
Brighter
we're a little
days
more
are
upbeat.
ahead
Dang
next
it.
year. Come on.
A little more upbeat and everything. Maybe we can do a basketball breakdown when we win the NCAA tournament and everything.
Hey,
Yeah,
man,
and Brady, I feel like you got the brunt of some frustration here. you
No, I
know?
get it.
And I do apologize.
I apologize for Ryan and David, actually.
But I don't think I said anything out of line either. So
No.
I apologize that you got to be the guy who I talked to about it. But like,
That's fine.
but
Just send them the
it
bill
is what it
later,
is.
Brady.
And
That's
also,
it.
Tim and Ryan, we
Let him
kept
respond.
Ben for an entire episode. This is the first time he's been on.
He
and
tried to leave, then
hasn't-
we started talking about basketball.
He's like, oh, okay.
You suckered me back in, boys. I love you. That's the only reason I give you the time.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate you. Tim, you can take us out.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. We're going to take a quick break here. I think some of us are going to go last call. I don't know. It could be interesting. If you liked what you heard or you didn't, doesn't matter. Support us anyway at patreon.com/Save Atlanta. You'll get live stream access to last call, discounts on merch, tailgate bevs when we have one. I'm assuming we're going to have one, David, for basketball.
Max says so.
Top of the deck. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Let's do it.
And more. $5 is all it takes to support the show. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys.